Hello, Eagles. Today I have a great story for us. It is called Grace for President. Our author is Kelly DiPuccio, and our illustrator is Luyen Pham. Look at all these presidents. Grace thinks that she's going to be president. Would you want to run for president? One Monday morning in September, Mrs. Barrington rolled out a big poster with all of the president's pictures on it. Grace Campbell could not believe her eyes. Where are the girls? That's a very good question, said Miss Barrington. The truth is, our country has never had a woman president. No girl president? Ever? Grace asked. No, I'm afraid not, said Miss Barrington. Grace sat at her desk and stewed. No girls? Who'd ever heard of such a crazy thing? Finally, she raised her hand. Yes, Grace. I've been thinking it over, and I'd like to be president. Several students in the class laughed. Why do you think they laughed? Is it because we've never had a girl president? Well, I think that's a star-spangled idea, Grace, said Miss Barrington. In fact, we can have our own election right here at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. The snickering in the room stopped. Grace smiled. Would anyone else like to run for president? Miss Barrington asked the class. Nobody raised their hand. Becoming president was going to be easy, Grace thought. Do you think it's an easy job becoming the president? The next day, Mrs. Barrington made an announcement. In the name of democracy, I have invited Mr. Waller's class to join our election. Their class has nominated Thomas Cobb to be their presidential candidate. Grace's heart sank. Thomas was the school spelling bee champion. His experiments always took blue ribbon at the science fair, and he was captain of the soccer team. Becoming president wasn't going to be easy after all, Grace thought. Do you think she's nervous running against Thomas for president? Because he's popular? The teacher put the names of all 50 states and the District of Columbia into a hat. Everyone except Grace and Thomas got to choose a state. I'm Texas, said Anthony. I'm New Hampshire, said Rose. I'm Michigan, said Robbie. Hey, what does the number 17 mean? Each state is assigned a number of electoral votes. That number is determined by how many people live in that state, said Miss Barrington. Each of you will be a representative for your state. Altogether, our country has 538 electoral votes. Mr. Waller explained. On election day, the candidate who receives 270 electoral votes or more wins the election and becomes our next president. Why 270? Asked Rose. Well, that's more than half of all the electoral votes, Mr. Waller said. Becoming president really wasn't going to be easy, Grace thought. Grace came up with campaign slogans. Make history! Vote Grace Campbell for president! Thomas came up with his own campaign slogan. Vote for Thomas Cobb, the best man for the job. Grace listened to what issues were important to the students, and she made a list of campaign promises. A peaceful school, no bullies. A cleaner school, no littering. Better hot lunches, no more fish stick tacos. Ugh, do you want fish stick tacos for lunch? She listened to the students. Thomas made up his own list of promises. Free tutoring, free soccer lessons, fish stick tacos every week. Do the students like fish stick tacos? Or is Thomas just doing what he wants? Grace made campaign posters and buttons. Thomas made posters and buttons too. Each week, the teacher set aside time for the candidates to meet with their constituents. Constituents are people that are supporting her and that want to vote for her. Polls were taken. Voters were making their choices. Who would you vote for, Grace or Thomas? And why? Grace continued to campaign. At recess, she gave speeches. During lunch, she handed out free cupcakes. After school, she held rallies. Meanwhile, Thomas wasn't worried. He had cleverly calculated that the boys held slightly more electoral votes than the girls. Thomas thinks he's going to win because he's going to get all the boys to vote for him. At recess, Thomas studied his spelling words. During lunch, he worked on his latest science experiment. After school, he played soccer. Who do you think's working harder for the students at Woodrow Wilson? Grace or Thomas? Even before the election, Grace made good on her promises. She joined the safety squad. She organized a school beautification committee, meaning she was helping to clean up their school, and she volunteered her time in the school cafeteria. I bet she's even helping them to get better lunches. In early November, Woodrow Wilson Elementary hosted a special Election Day assembly. Grace and Thomas took their places on stage as the school band began to play. Henry was the first representative to approach the microphone. The Yellowhammer State of Alabama cast its 9 electoral votes for Thomas Cobb. Fletcher said, the Last Frontier State of Alaska cast its 3 electoral votes for the best man for the job, Thomas Cobb. The Grand Canyon State of Arizona cast its 10 electoral votes for Grace Campbell, Hannah called out. And so it went. State after state after state cast their electoral votes. The scoreboard in the gymnasium kept track of the totals. The voting demonstration was quickly coming to an end. Clara approached the podium. The Badger State of Wisconsin cast its 10 votes for my best friend, Grace Campbell. Grace looked at the scoreboard. Thomas had 268 electoral votes. She had 267. There was only one state still unaccounted for. Wyoming. Who's going to get to 270 votes first? Thomas grinned. Grace felt sick. Sam walked up to the microphone. He looked at Thomas. He looked at Grace. He looked down at Grace's handmade flag. Sam didn't say a word. What are you waiting for? Thomas whispered. The band stopped playing. All eyes were on Wyoming. Finally, Sam cleared his throat. The Equality State of Wyoming cast its 3 electoral votes for... Oh, who do you think's going to win? Thomas or Grace? For Grace Campbell! The gymnasium erupted in loud cheers and a few boos. Miss Barrington approached the podium. With 270 electoral votes, the winner is Grace Campbell. Thomas looked stunned. Grace hugged Sam. Why did you do it? She asked. Sam handed Grace his flag. Because, he said, I thought that you were the best person for the job as class president. The following week, the students in Miss Barrington's class were preparing for their career day presentations. Grace volunteered to go first. She stood at the front of the room and glanced at the poster still hanging on the wall. My name is Grace Campbell, and when I grow up, I'm going to be President of the United States. This time everybody believed that she would. And one day, maybe she will. I hope you enjoyed Grace for President as we go into this important week where we have voted for our new President of the United States of America. Have a great week, Eagles.